there is going to be there's going to be a breakout session which we do not record, so you'll be able to share something about your business within the group. So it's still not super private, obviously, but you can share that with the group that you're in if you'd like. But for the rest of the duration, it will be recorded and we'll put it on our YouTube page, so folks that missed it today can come back to it and see it. We good, Casey?
Yeah, all set.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. You probably heard about us from either my mailing list or Casey's. So we really appreciate you guys for being here today. This is the Small Business Tech Talk, as we call it. And we've been doing this for over a year now. We try to help folks like yourselves and us, actually. We try to have a conversation every Friday of the month, first Friday of the month. And we like to talk about some technology aspects of the things that we're doing in business, as well as potentially some things that are going on in marketing and, like anything else that might be helpful. So we like to take topics that you might be interested in. So if you have some things that you're interested in learning about and, want to share with us as well, that would be awesome. We love those kinds of collaboration, and we'd love to see you back here again in the next first Friday of the month. So I believe that will be July 2nd, going off the top of my head.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Which might be a bad idea since it's a holiday weekend.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah. Actually, we might change that a little bit. It didn't occur to me. So maybe we'll make it the second Friday next month specifically because it's a holiday. So yeah, so that's what we do here. We hope that you guys find it helpful. Generally speaking, the folks that join us, they really get good information out of the conversation we have, and they like to come back and join. So we would like to have you guys sign in to our.
Just drop that link in there.
Thank you, Casey. We'd like to have you guys sign in so we can make sure we let you know about the next one. Something like, the date change and things like that would be helpful. So that's us. That's the Small Business Tech Talk. And for here, I want Casey to introduce herself. So Casey, would you mind?
I'm Casey Arendt, and I have a business called Be Traffic Ready. I am a website copywriter. So if you have a homepage that's such a bad salesperson for your business that if it was a human, you would fire it, I can help you put the words on your homepage that will help it sell better, because I know a lot of us are trying to sell things or put calendar appointments on the calendar while we sleep, and so I can help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm Mo Hossain. I have a company called Data Up where I focus on analytics for small to medium-sized businesses, and I help them understand what's going on with their user experience and how to improve those things. There's a lot of things that fall into it, things like SEO and using Google Analytics and other tools like that. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to help on that as well. So today we have a pretty packed hour, and we're going to we obviously already started talking. And again, I'd like if you guys could collaborate as well within yourselves and with us, that would be great. We have a little bit of what we call Tech Talk, which we talk about a specific topic takes about 15 or 20 minutes. And then we do a little bit of a breakout session that will take about 15 minutes. And then we'll share some of the things we learned in that breakout room. And since it's a small group, we may just do a big, just this regular room here. And then we'll wrap up and share some announcements if we have anything. And then we'll go forward from there.
Should we do some intros since we are a small group?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
If you'd be willing to turn on your audio and your video, let's just have a little 30 to 45 second intro from each of you guys so we can hear a little bit more about your business and what brings you here today. Who would like to go first?
I see Allison's mic is on right now. Hey, Allison, can you hear us?
Hey, my name's Allison, and I'm a marketer. I've been working at a software development firm called Clever. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little feedbacky, but we can understand you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Sorry, guys. But so with this position, they have been wanting me to learn more about search engine optimization. And I took one of the courses on SEM Rush with Brett
Mm.
Clifford, I believe, the fundamentals of SEO. And so I'm excited. I've been to one of your tech talks before. I think this is my second or third time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm excited
Back.
to be here.
Awesome.
Welcome
Thank you,
back.
Allison. Yeah, it's going to be a good conversation for you today. And also, obviously, ask us questions. We'll try to answer them if we know it. Phil, I
For
see that
sure.
you're also unmuted. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm actually a member of SCORE. So I help to advise small business owners on a voluntary basis. So I'm here really just to learn a bit about what I should be advising my clients on when it comes to.
We apologize.
Sorry
Apologies
about
about the audio issues, but yeah, let's go ahead and get started today. Casey, do you have any question or anything that I missed for the intro?
No, not for the
No?
intro. Yeah, let's
Okay.
jump into it.
All right, awesome. Let's do it. So our topic for today is improving SEO with backlinks, and I'm going to explain what backlinks is in a minute. But the takeaways, some of the things that I want you guys to remember while we're talking today is to understand the importance of backlinks and why you should create them. We'll talk about that, and then why you may want to hire a SEO manager, someone that actually does create backlinks for you, but you have to be careful because sometimes when you hire people, they may not do the right backlinks, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. And then we will give you some tools that you can check out your current backlinks that you have for your website. If you have had a website for a little bit, you should have some backlinks already, and how you can track it over time. Those tools will help you do that. And then eventually, finally, you'll get some ideas and tactics on how you can create more backlinks outside of just hiring someone. That might be one of the first things you want to do. All right, so for this portion, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. So I'm going to kind of introduce backlinks. Does anyone here know backlinks? Like have you had any experience with backlinks at all? Feel free to unmute and say it.
No, go ahead.
But I'm familiar with them, but
Okay.
need to know more.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, keyword research, I think most of us have kind of heard of that. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
backlinks are a little more unusual. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been learning about backlinks on we bought a trial or a program for, it's called hrefs.com.
Mhm.
Yeah. Ahrefs
It's a
are great.
wonderful tool.
Yeah, and that's what our company has been using. So I've been looking at all the backlinks, competitor backlinks, the domain authority of backlinks. And so I've actually gained a lot of knowledge in the past couple of months.
Oh, wow.
Great.
Allison, it sounds like you should be teaching this class.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Yeah, you're definitely doing the right thing. So we'll touch on some of those things today, and hopefully we can give you a couple of things that you haven't run into already. So the idea of a backlink is kind of like vouching or like a vote of confidence for one person to the other. It's the same thing when on the online world, we're trying to vouch for someone else. So for example, let's say that I put Casey's information on my website. Let's say I write a little blog post that Casey does copywriting, and for anyone that works with me, they should totally go talk to Casey for doing some copywriting with her. So let's say she has a website, and on my blog post on my website, I'm saying, blah, 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 be traffic ready. And I'm putting a link to her for her website on my website, right? So at that point, when I did that, that is essentially creating a backlink from my website to Casey's website. Now it's two separate websites, two separate entities, and that's what's kind of creating that idea of a backlink. Generally speaking, you want to.
So that's a backlink for me.
Yes,
that Mo has graciously done. Okay. Just to make that clear.
Yes, exactly. So that doesn't necessarily sort of helps me a little bit. It's a bit iffy there, but generally it's all about Casey at that point. I'm basically helping Casey, and she may do the same. So that's one of the things that we'll kind of get into later. So she may say, "Oh, okay, well, thanks, Mo. Let me write something about you and on my blog," and so sort of do the same thing. It's like the reciprocal idea. So if you kind of think about it that way, let's say that you're at a networking meeting. Right, there's 20 people around you, and you say, "Hey, I do, like I have a jewelry business. I want to sell some jewelry, et cetera, et cetera." And then 5 people around you stand up and say, "Hey, yes, I like that person. They have a great jewelry business, and you should everyone should go check them out." Automatically, psychologically, people will just say, "Okay, yeah, that's great. So anytime I need a jewelry next time, I will go to this person." So similarly, when you're on the online world, it's the same way. It's just on a more of a bigger scale, and it just kind of works in a different way, but the idea is the same. So basically what's happening is the more people, the websites that are vouching for you, the better it is. Now, there are some caveats in that, which I'm going to talk about, but that's pretty much the idea of backlinks, where websites are basically vouching for you, and that's what creates that idea of that your website is good and that people like you. That kind of brings on this idea of domain authority. The domain authority is basically kind of a number from 1 to 100. You can think of it as a percentage, perhaps, but basically the idea is that the higher you are on the domain authority number, that means that the more people, or more websites rather, that vouch for you. There are some sort of other differences in that, but that's kind of the idea. So for example, let's think of like a huge company like Apple, right, or Amazon. Their domain authority is just off, like skyrocket, and it's just insane. It's like 98 or something like that. Most companies like you and I will not have that sort of a domain authority unless, let's say, we all of a sudden become like huge companies as well. So the idea is you should target your domain authority to be as high as possible, going from where you are, and you want to go higher. So generally speaking, you want to stay around like the 30, 40 domain authority if you can. That would be really good. And if you can go over, obviously it's good, but generally speaking, when you start your website, you don't have any backlinks, you don't have any content, so your kind of domain authority is lower. Most of the time, websites tend to be around that 20 mark because they have some backlinks, they have some content and stuff like that. The more work you do on SEO, the higher it will be. So that's the idea of domain authority. That's very important, as we'll talk more about that a little bit later on today. So Casey, how do I know that I have some backlinks? Do you think I have some?
I'm sure you do. I mean, almost anybody does. They're not necessarily good ones, but it's always nice to see kind of who is linking to you. So yeah, you'll definitely need to grab some sort of an online tool to see that. There's really no way you can, go to Google or something and say, who are my backlinks? So you need a tool for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you'll have this idea of low domain authority, high domain authority that I just mentioned. And the thing is, you don't necessarily want to be getting too many low domain authority sites pointing at you. It doesn't really help that much. So for example, if you're saying, "Oh, hey, Casey, like I'm gonna, could you put my my website on your blog or whatever, on your website somewhere," that would be great if, let's say, for example, Casey has a really good domain authority, right?
Yeah.
But if you ask all of us and all of us have a low domain authority, it doesn't really help you that much. But let's say that someone has a 50 domain authority, then you should go talk to them. It's kind of like quality versus quantity, right? So if you're getting a higher quality domain to link at to you, then that is generally a better situation than something that isn't as high. So there are a lot of caveats in it, but generally speaking, you want to try to get high domain authority.
And some of those low domain authority links, they're not terrible. If it's some small website that, some art lover and they just have a few blog posts, if they write about your gallery, it doesn't really help you that much, but it doesn't hurt you. But there are backlinks that can hurt you. So you really do want to know, especially if you notice that it seems like you're disappearing from the first page of Google, you want to know if there are some spam backlinks that you need to be disavowing.
Yeah, absolutely. I was working with one of my clients last year, and it turned out, I think that we don't know because I wasn't involved with them before, but based on what we saw, we think that my clients their website was hacked at some point, and there were all these spammy links that were created. So basically there was like adult website, drug websites, they're just pointing to this website, and it's like, oh well, that's kind of a mess. So it took a
Yeah.
long time for us to clear that up. In fact, it hasn't still cleared up. It's been like 8 months or something like that. But it's one of those things with SEO is it takes a long time for you to rank. It also takes a long time for you to disappear from that if you have some bad situation going on. But there are some tactics where, let's say that you all of a sudden, oh crap, like I have some backlinks that aren't good, that are spammy. Then there are some tactics that you can look into to get rid of them if you've been in that unfortunate position. You can reach out to me if you have any questions about that specifically. But the idea, we're not going to talk much about that today because it's not very common, but disavowing the links would be the idea. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. The other thing you're going to run into is the idea of no follow and do follow.
Oh
Do
yeah.
follow is the default
And I
when,
can see that right there where you're sharing your screen where it says
yeah,
backlinks and there's some no follow.
yep, there's no follow and there's the number of backlinks, which I'll go over this tool in a minute. But the idea of the no follow is when you have a link, but you don't want to give credibility, essentially, it's kind of a weird idea, to that website, or you don't want the website tools like Google, like the search engines, to kind of crawl back to your website from that link. So the idea there is you have, for example, let's say a Facebook. That's a common place where most of the links that you put in there are going to be no follow. Same thing with Twitter. So when you put links on Facebook, they are going to be tagged, like the technical way of being no follow, which means that that link essentially does not count in the eyes of Google for a backlink. You may still see that in tools like this, where it's just like it'll say that, oh, you have 2,000 no follow links. That means that you have those backlinks, but it doesn't really count much towards your domain authority. And at the end of the day, all of these things are very vague. It's kind of dependent on the algorithms that Google has and other search engines have. So we don't know for sure exactly, very concretely, like this is what it is. But generally speaking, in the SEO world, no follow is basically like it doesn't matter that much or at all. The regular link, when you create a link on your website, you don't put anything in there, that's called a do follow. So it's just by default, that's just what it is. And those are links that basically, if I put on my website for Casey, then I would just make a standard link and that will count towards Casey's website. So here's a couple of examples I wanted to share with you for a couple of minutes here. I recommend Ubersuggest. It's on neilpatel.com to use this if you just want to kind of check it out, check out a like an overview of backlinks and stuff like that.
This is a free tool that you
For
can.
SEO without having to log in. Yeah, that's sort of the important part. You don't have to log in here. You get 3 searches per day, as you can see here. I'm going to talk about 2 of them. There's a few other tools that we'll give you right after this. So let's go through this real quick. So I don't think there was, is anyone related to a car dealership in Austin? I don't think there was anyone here.
I don't think so.
Say something now or forever be quiet. All right, sounds like we're good. So I was basically trying to bring something, bring an example that we're not related to. Anyone here? So there's a company called Henner Chevy in Austin. So they have a website, this one, hennerchevy.austin.com. And there's also this other website called ASA Auto Plaza Austin, right? So this one, when I typed in like something like used car Austin, this was one of the first things that came up. And this website, the Auto Plaza one, was one like on the 10th page or something like that. So
no one's ever going to find you on page 10.
it's a good, yeah, exactly. It's a good place for us to start and talk about. So check it out. So the domain authority for this website is pretty good. It's actually 36. Remember, I said that something around 30 and 40, you should be pretty good. It's pretty hard to go over that. It takes a lot of effort and money to get your domain authority to be really high, unless like I said, like all of a sudden you become like a internet sensation or something like that. So domain authority here for this company is pretty good. It's at 36. They have a lot of backlinks, as you can see, thousands, 12,000 backlinks. Domains is how many websites have this link. So as you notice, obviously the number of domains, the number of different websites is a lot lower, actually, in this case, than the number of backlinks. So it seems like some of these websites have many links for this company, right? So that's another thing. And then
Not
this
ideal,
is how much,
but that's the way it goes.
sometimes that's how it is. Yeah. So this is the number of traffic they get per month through SEO. So if some of you, like I think Allison said that she was working on this, you're probably familiar with this. For others, this might be a helpful place for you to kind of see what's going on. There's a little backlink over time idea. So probably last year around June, they did a lot of work on blog posting and other stuff to get their backlinks up. So we can see the history there. And there's some other stuff like, oh, they maybe lost some stuff for whatever reason, etc. The interesting thing is when you come down to the bottom of the page, you see more or less, depending on what tool you're using, you may have some limitations, but you should see pretty much every domain and link that you are linked for. So obviously this 12,000 is kind of massive. Let's go to this one. So we can see that this website has a domain authority of 10, which is pretty much a new domain. Maybe they don't have a whole lot going on. They don't have a lot of content perhaps. 36 domains are referring back to it. They still have a decent amount of organic monthly traffic. But if you go down here, you'll see all those different 36 domains listed in here. So for example, you'll see for whatever reason, Henner Chevy, Austin's another target there. And there's some other links here you'll see, for example. So when you see this link, you should kind of pay attention to first the domain authority of the source. Source is where that link is, right? So for this website, this ASA Auto Plaza, they have a link on this website referring to the ASA Plaza website. Their website domain authority is really good, but unfortunately it's a no follow link, so it doesn't count towards that much. This bit.ly link, it does sort of count, but in the eyes of Google, this is kind of just a knowledge that SEO managers would know, that sometimes these links like bit.ly, it's like a very generic, everyone can create that. It doesn't count as much, but it's still helpful somewhat. No follow, we basically want to ignore that. Then there's other posts, pages that are coming up. So you can see that there are a lot of these pages that are linked to this asaplaza.com. Similarly, we would see the same thing here. So the idea is we want to see what your links are and kind of go off of that and see if that's something that's helpful. Obviously, as I mentioned, you want to try to get more domain authority that are higher. And then some of these things that you may want to do some competitive research. So for example, let's say that if Henner Chevy was a competitor of this company, we don't know, they may be maybe a competitor, they may go to Henner Chevy and say, okay, well, looks like they're putting stuff on Groupon, so maybe that's getting people into their website, or they're advertising on Lyft or BroadwayWorld.com, stuff like that. If you see your competitors doing something, you can always try to reach out to the same website. Let's say we would reach out to BroadwayWorld.com and say, hey, we know that you're advertising with Henner Chevy. Would you also mind doing something with us? And sometimes you have to pay them, sometimes you don't. It just depends on what's going on, what they're doing, etc.
Well, and it might not be advertising. So you might just get some ideas about how you can get some of these links just by seeing, like, go to this article and see what it actually is, and it might give you some great ideas. So yeah, you can totally, I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Go see what your best competitors are doing and then try some of those same tactics.
Yeah, absolutely. So
hey Mo, we're already at 10:30.
Yes, I noticed that. Sorry. So I'm going to share a couple more links with you. There's the Google Search Console, which you can sign up for, and you'll see some keywords and backlinks there. My recommendation is hrefs.com if you don't mind the more technicalities of things. This is a little more complicated, so if it's too much for you, you can start with Ubersuggest or even Mangles. Casey likes this tool a lot as well. So,
Mangles is especially great for doing keyword research, which is more
Mm-hmm.
of an on-page SEO thing. But the reason to use Ahrefs is they have by far the biggest catalog of these backlinks that exists. So it's, if you want to do backlinks, it's the one to do for sure. If you're just looking around to try to figure things out, then these other tools are cheaper and easier to use.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that's what backlinks are. That's some of the ways you can get backlinks. For example, you can write guest posts on news sites, like a local news site. Like in Austin, we have Austin. I forget, a Statesman newspaper, for example. If you can get on their website, sometimes you can do advertisement and stuff like that with them. That would be one way. You can reach out to your partners, like your business partners. Like Casey and I are business partners, for example. We do complementary things. Like I can work on a website and Casey can do the copywriting for them. So we can do something where say, hey, let's do some backlinking so we can help each other out. So if you have partners like that, that would be helpful. If you are a dealer, or if you have dealers, for example, you can always talk to them and say, hey, would you like to kind of do a little guest post? The idea of a guest post is basically you write a blog. You can get someone to write it. You can write it yourself. It should be something unique. It should be something that's people are looking for, and then use that to put it on someone else's website where there's hopefully some traffic, and so that helps you in multiple ways. Not only the backlink, but also getting the traffic as well. That's important.
Well, most industries are going to have a few blogs that are kind of the dominant blogs in the industry. So if you can build a relationship with one of those blogs and have them allow you to put a blog article on their blog, that's going to be the best.
Yep.
So if it's already recognized as a leader, then that's really where you want to get. That's going to be hard, but it can be really worth it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'll pause there. We can share a little more at the end of the meeting when we do the sharing portion. So Casey, I think it would probably be good for us to just stay in this room and chat. Sure. We can turn off the recording. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you guys would like to share or talk about before we wrap up the meeting? Allison, was that helpful? Or not Allison, Terry and Dave, was that helpful for you guys to talk about your own website, and hopefully you guys got some?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think was the main part that you would kind of go back and work on next?
For me, I want to take a look. I like Linktree. It's kind of like, okay, here's Linktree and everything is there. So maybe I might want to revisit that. Yeah. Kind of do something maybe a little different, but still keep it there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dave, any interesting tidbits that was helpful for you?
Oh, very much so, Mo. I think two primary things that I got from this is, go back to these folks who already have links to us and kind of enhance those and grow that, especially when I come up there. We have some relationships with those folks. It's not like going back to them cold, And then I forget what my other point was. Sorry, just great info all around, very helpful.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. There's a few wrap-up action items for the rest of us here. So as far as we, hopefully we learned enough. So since we talked about Dave and Terry, for the rest of you guys, go to that Neil Patel website and pop in your website and go through kind of like what we did for Terry and Dave, go through each of them and see, okay, well, is this a no follow? Can I make it a do follow link or regular link? Can I, multiply this website or this blog post and do something newer? Maybe even update. Google actually likes refreshed content. So if you have something from before, it's still relevant. Updating it, maybe adding some more images, content, video, whatever is helpful. So you can always do that, or create something completely new, like that news site that we were looking at. And it's a good way to do it. You can also create some really, really interesting content. So for example, let's say that, we're in the jewelry business and some people are searching for how to keep a jewelry clean. I have no idea. I'm just kind of putting something out there. But they're like, okay, how do I do this at home? You write this really interesting blog post about it, and how you do it, and maybe some images and like how the process. Maybe you can use some tools that you already have at home instead of having to go pay someone to do whatever. That might be a good way for you to be out there. So you can say this is a guest blog post. Let me go put it on someone's website as an example. So you reach out to some people and it's like, hey, would you mind putting it on your website, putting the links and stuff to my website, etc. That's an example. Guest posts are awesome. They're very helpful for businesses all around. So definitely do that.
Just go and look at some of the blogs in your industry and notice if they have a wide variety of people writing for them, they're going to be open to guest posts. If it's always the same person, then maybe not. Yeah.
The other thing, if you do notice something like what I was mentioning, like if it's a spam site that's coming to your website, you'll see it by the anchor text. That's just kind of weird, like adult stuff or maybe drugs and stuff like that. That's pretty obvious, and you don't want to be really coming up for that. So look at that, and then if you have any question, let me know. But you can always disavow them. The idea of disavow, that will basically get rid of it. It takes time, but it'll get rid of the association to your website. And finally, you can always hire a company to do your website backlinks for you. I would be careful here because a lot of sort of cheap websites or agencies will just kind of create these fake websites for you. It's technically a backlink, but in the eyes of Google, it doesn't matter so much. And sometimes actually they will penalize you for having spammy backlinks. So if you do hire someone, make sure they're doing things like guest posts and reaching out to people, or something that's a little more concrete versus just putting up random websites and putting a link to your website. So look out for those things. There is a company called The Hoth. It's TheHoth.com. You can go to their website and check out. They have a lot of different services they do. One of the services they do have is a guest post. If you go to the bottom of their website, they do guest posts. And that basically is ranking you or putting you on some news sites and other places that might be that you might be interested in. This is fairly cost effective. So, for example, if you want to, you can kind of see like how much it would cost. Obviously, we talked about the domain authority. So you say, okay, I want a domain authority that's at least 30, and maybe I want 1,000 word blog, and I want maybe like 2 of them or something. Whatever, and it'll show you. Okay, it'll cost you $450. You order it. It'll usually take a couple weeks to a month, and they work on that for you. So that's a really good way for you to be out there. But they focus on stuff like guest post, or they have other stuff like let me see. What they call it off the top of my head, press release. That's another way. So like if you have a new thing coming up, like you're opening a new store location, or maybe you have something like super unique that you're doing in your business, do a press release and get it out to some news channels, etc. That could be helpful for you as well. So that's it for us. Casey, is there anything I missed?
No, I think that was good. Yeah, I think you'll see some terms thrown around out there in the SEO world: white hat, black hat. You definitely want to hire white hat people who are not doing weird, scammy things if you're going to hire. So, but if you do it yourself, everything's going to be fine. And yeah, use your network, see what's already working in your backlinks, do more of that, and use your competitors and see what's working for them.
Yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
easiest way.
If you haven't already, please sign in to our Google Forms so we can let you know about our next session, which will be the week after the holiday, I think is what we're going to end up doing, at the first Friday. So that's that one. And thank you, Allison, for your comment. Yes, absolutely. There are a ton of YouTube videos, especially from some of these websites like Ahrefs or Moz.com. They have their own channels and they talk about SEO things. Focus on those websites, and they're very good in explaining a lot of these things. So that's it for us. If you have any questions, we'll hang around for a couple of minutes here, and we'll
feel free to stick
wrap
around
up after that. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate it.